Greece. In 2015, the government of Greece put together a dive team and they invited me to participate. So 10 of us went up to an island off the coast of Asia Minor, which is in the northeast corner of the Aegean Sea. So there were 10 divers, and we brought along 2 sponge divers, retired sponge divers that have been diving in the area for a number of years. There were a lot of rumors around, passed throughout the years, that there were a tremendous amount of sunken ancient shipwrecks around this tiny island of Fournoi. And Fournoi is located between the islands of Samos and Ikaria. Has anyone been to Greece, by the way? No? No one? Wow. Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Not yet.
All right. Well, I'll tell you all about Greece a little later, and you'll probably want to go immediately. But it is one beautiful country with beautiful people. The food is exceptional. The diving is spectacular. If you're a diver, that's the place to dive. It's the clearest water I've ever been in. I mean, 150 to 200 feet of visibility is the average in certain parts of the country. So we went up, and we were taking a lot of risk. The head of the mission had some private funds that were donated to him, so he had to really be a success. We didn't want to come back empty-handed, so we took a lot of risk to go up there. And so I have a documentary that we put together in 2017. It's 15 minutes long, and it will show you the first and second mission in 2015 and 2016. After the video, I'll bring you up to date with our mission in 2021. We just returned. We were there in September for 3 weeks, and we're on a new phase of our mission now, and I'll explain all that to you. So we're going to start the video.
They represent a section in time where a ship and all the human action around it are condensed into a single moment, the moment of disaster. They're in a way time capsules, standing in a neutral environment waiting to be discovered.
The mission is a joint effort of the Hellenic Department of Underwater Antiquities and the RPM Nautical Foundation. Both institutions have a long experience in investigating underwater sites in pursuit of shipwrecks.
In summer 2015, Greece was under a severe financial crisis, and clearly it was not the right time to get involved in any kind of venture. Another issue that we considered quite a lot was the absence of any contact with the local population, because in places like Fournoi, you just don't show up like that. We needed to have an insider. So there were endless discussions about that in my office in Athens, and one such day the phone rings, and in the other end of the line there is this civil engineer from Fournoi, meticulous, an amateur diver, claiming to have a list of ancient shipwrecks that he found during his dives around the island. By that point, I knew that we have a mission.
Ironically enough, he has the same name with the famous 19th century pirate and turns out to be his descendant.
We had no idea that the mission was underway to explore the shipwrecks in our island. I was supervising the coast line for many years, and the sight of relics of ancient amphora cargoes was a very common experience.
For additional information, George Kotsouflakis and Peter Campbell have to resort to the only other reliable source of information, the legendary sponge divers from the island of Kalmos. They were diving the Aegean for centuries before the invention of scuba. No one else knows these waters better.
Caribbean sponge divers are typical creatures of the sea. They are very silent, they are very circumspect and very wary against state representatives. So we have to use all our persuasions to convince them to come to Fournoi and cooperate with us.
September 13, 2015. A small team of archaeologists and divers ascended to the island and started walking.
I was recruited to this dive team at the very last moment. I had received an email from Greece stating that the mission was on. I asked when, and George said, this Friday, be there. So I packed my gear and rushed to the airport that evening.
2 days after settling, Manos Mitikas leads the diving teams to the first promising targets. Piles of broken ceramics are beginning to appear in the shallows.
We understood from the very first time that what was happening in Fournoi was quite exceptional. There were traces of ancient shipwrecks literally everywhere. I remember coming out from the dive and just whistled to Peter saying that yes, we definitely are in the right spot. This is the place.
Amphoras are the most common underwater find in the Mediterranean. They were the jerry cans of antiquity, a durable container for liquids specially designed to be stowed in large numbers in the holds of ancient ships. Wine, oil, processed fish sauce, these were the commodities canned in these vessels, and they were the staple products that made the Mediterranean economy move.
Amphoras pervaded the Mediterranean markets for over 2,000 years and vary largely in shape, size and volume. Since every ancient city adopted a specific design, they revealed the date and provenance of every cargo. Most cargoes found in the shallows are fragmentary and destroyed. In order to trace finds in good conditions, archaeologists know they have to go deeper.
When you're in search for ancient shipwrecks, evidence is usually on the bottom of the sea, and you need to follow the parts you find from different amphoras. And when you're following these parts, you might end up in larger depths. These larger depths will also alter your profile, and when it alters your profile, you might end up having to do a lot more decompression.
Tony Koulouriotis, Tony Xipolitas and Lefteris Glinatsis, 3 Caribbean sponge divers, are joining the team. Tony Koulouriotis is a retired sponge diver suffering the lasting symptoms of decompression illness after decades of excessive diving. He was often diving these waters during the 60s and the 70s. Tony Xipolitas and Lefteris are still active, 2 of the last of their kind. Lefteris is leading the team into deeper waters. A 6th century BC shipwreck carrying amphora from the island of Samos is the first to be located. It is one of the earliest historic wrecks ever found in Greece. "300 meters to the south, archaeologists are surprised by another exceptional cargo. The seafloor is covered by huge amphoras of a type never evidenced before in these waters. An intact sample is raised from the wreck. It is a heavy container with a capacity of over 60 liters. The identification of the amphora leaves archaeologists speechless. Those amphorae are arriving from the Roman territories of the northern Black Sea.
area spotted by the Calippian sponge divers proved to be a gold mine. 7 shipwrecks were crowded along a short piece of coastline, and they probably sank in the same conditions, but hundreds of years apart.
Every new wreck has to be filmed, photographed and documented in detail. Time is running short. The 2015 research ends in late September with an unprecedented score of 22 shipwrecks. It is a huge discovery, plotting the island of Fournoi in the archaeological map of Eastern Mediterranean for the first time. The press release of the Fournoi research has a worldwide resonance. Fournoi, a former archaeologically uncharted place, is celebrated to the international press as the world capital of ancient shipwrecks. Nine months later, the second mission in Fournoi is launched in June 2016. The diving personnel involves now 22 members, including students in their first steps in the discipline. Bad weather, however, holds back every operation. This archipelagos is known to be extremely dangerous for navigation.
All these wrecks demonstrate how nature has the upper hand. We just have to wait.
After the weather calmed, dives start in earnest. With a large number of divers in the water, new shipwrecks are reported every day, some of them in considerably good condition. An unexpected encounter in the open sea with another Calippian diver offers information of an unknown wreck. A very promising site is expected to be found in the depth zone of 180 feet. In the end of a rocky downhill, archaeologists discover an untouched cargo of North African and Spanish amphoras. Samples are raised to the surface. The sea around Fournoi proves to be also extremely rich in isolated finds.
I can't remember a single dive where we didn't find something new, something of historical significance. Diving in these waters is basically like diving into ancient history.
Raising operations are not always easy. A large stone stock of the composite ancient anchor is embedded in the seafloor and covered with huge rocks. The artifact has to be uncovered and chiseled out. It is one of the largest stone stocks ever reported, and it is dated back to 600 BC. An outdoor conservation lab is installed on the main dock of the Fournoi port, equipped with all necessary outfit to facilitate raised finds. Every new artifact has to be cleaned, catalogued, measured and desalinized. The whole procedure takes place for the first time in the open, in common view of the inhabitants.
Local people started to understand that something really important was going on here that would affect their island in the future. Fishermen appeared on a daily basis providing new information or even delivering amphoras caught in their fishing nets.
In the end of June, after accomplishing 280 dives, the 2016 campaign reaches to an end. 23 new wrecks are plotted on the archaeological map. The archipelagos of Fournoi in less than 10 months is announced the richest sea in ancient shipwrecks worldwide.
What was amazing to me was not only the unforeseen number of ancient shipwrecks, 45 in total, appearing completely out of the blue, but also the diversity of the cargoes. Next to the Aegean cargoes, we had also cargoes from the Black Sea, from the Syro-Palestinian coast, from North Africa, from Italy, from Spain, literally from every corner of the Mediterranean.
Fournoi is a unique place. Every inch of the seafloor is covered in remains of ancient navigation. We also have a responsibility to protect this cultural heritage and to find ways to make it accessible to the diving community for years to come.
Okay,
What was that stone that they brought up?
big long one?
Yeah,
That's a stock,
a stalk?
anchor stock.
Oh, stalk.
How an anchor is shaped. You get the flukes, and then you have the stock up above.
Okay.
And we found a number of Roman anchors. And the Romans used lead in those days. And there were different sizes. Most of the Roman ships would carry 4 or 5 different type anchors. And would put them out from the bow and the stern. But
But that was stone? That was made of stone?
that was granite, yeah. It was
Right.
carved out of a piece of granite.
Wow.
It's an anchor stock. And it weighed a ton, I'll tell you. Now, we returned to Fournoi in 2017 and 2018 with bigger groups of people. Because we started out with 10, then we went to 20. And this last year, which is 2021, we had a total of 35 people with us. And I'll show you what we accomplished just this last September. Question was, any coral? Yes, there is coral there. You'll have to remember that the Greeks have been fishing for 3,000 years. And so you won't see a lot of fish in certain parts of the Aegean and Mediterranean. It's just part of the eco structure. There's very little growth. And about 15 or 20 years ago, the sponge that the divers were after went through a blight, so it just turned to dust. So that ended that industry as well. There is a lot of fishing going on, but it is deep water, and the fishermen know where the reefs are, so they keep that to themselves, and it's usually out to sea away from the islands. So we returned in September 1st of last year. We dim the lights a little bit so we can see that. Thank you. Okay, so last year, the Explorers Club and Discovery Channel awarded us a grant. Me personally, I was very thankful of that. And they also funded about 62% of our mission, which was really nice of them. Their plan was to bring a film crew to Fournoi, along with a producer and 2 spokesmen. Unfortunately, Greece in last year had a run of COVID, so that canceled the trip for the film crew. They just couldn't get back into Greece, and HR got involved, and that was the end of that. So we're hoping that they will pick up where they left off this year, and we shall see. I'm a member of the Explorers Club. I was inducted in 2017 in New York City. at headquarters. In fact, I'll be there tomorrow to give them our final flag report. I've carried 3 Explorer flags on each mission, so I'm very thankful of that. So this was our team t-shirt, and now Explorers Club and Discovery is owned by Warner Brothers Discovery. So now we're talking big time in terms of funding with Warner Brothers on board. And that's the flag, of course, the Explorers Club flag. So this flag that I was awarded this last year has been around, number 69. It was on the Titanic in 2005. Richie Kohler carried the flag in 2016 to the Britannic, and then it was awarded to me this last year. So I'm very, very thankful of that. It's a symbol of courage and fidelity, and they take this very seriously. There's about 200 flags in circulation each year, depending on the expeditions around the world. So we were fully permitted. The Greeks invented bureaucracy, by the way, and boy, do they have it. My diving credentials have about 12 stamps on it, and they sign in the middle of the stamp. It's pretty interesting. And so you just don't show up in Greece and go diving, by the way. You need to be with a guide at some point, and we can discuss that a little later. Because of the antiquities in the environment, they just don't want anyone showing up. And you don't want to be in a Greek prison, I can tell you that. So the permits are pretty hard to come by. Fortunately, Dr. Koutsaflakis, who you saw in the video, is a former employee of the Greek Ministry of Culture. So he's been able to lay the groundwork for our missions. It's really not that easy. I have a 7-minute video I can get it to play. And it's an unedited video of some of the back scenes of us loading onto the ferry, some of the drone work that we did. So I'm going to play that right now. Now there's no video, there's no sound in this. This is unedited. So I'll narrate. Here we are loading some of our gear onto the ferry in Athens. And this is where we're diving. As you can see, it's all sheer cliff. So can you imagine getting in trouble on a ship in this area? There's nowhere to go. So there was probably a lot of loss of life 2,000 years ago when these ships got caught in storms. Now this is our dive site, and you can see our commercial dive vessel is anchored over the wreck that we're working.
So John, that close to shore, how deep are you there?
We're at 160 feet.
That close?
Drops right off.
Yeah.
But here's some of our divers going through some. Oh, wait a minute! Some of this does have sound. Here we go. Well, here's some of our divers. This is Carlton Hoy, who was, there's myself in the water. But Carlton is a vice president of Bank of New York, and he joined our mission 2 years ago. He saw a presentation that I gave at Beneath the Sea. He asked, how do I get on this mission? And so he joined our institute. He made a contribution. And we invited him. Now we're doing some excavation. You see the M4s in the sand. We hit 3 layers of concretion. The top layer is about that much of sand, and then we hit like broken concrete. It's a concretion. You know, the sand binds together. and the limestone binds it together. And then the third area is more of a concrete mix.
John, what sealed the amphora?
What's that?
What sealed the amphora?
They used a couple of different methods. One was wax over burlap, and then they also used cork. And the cork and the burlap would, of course, disintegrate over time, unless they're buried. And what we have with this wreck are buried amphoras. You're only looking at the top deck where it dumped out. This ship went down very quickly. There's very little debris coming down the wall. We find everything in one spot. So we know that it sank very quickly, probably bashed in the hull when it got caught in the storm.
So any of the amphora have contents?
Well, we don't know. We're not there yet. We just, none of the amphora on top of the deck have any contents. What we're finding is, that's myself tagging some of the amphora, because we organize grids and we number every amphora.
So you haven't even got to the deck yet?
We just started to.
Okay.
Yeah, we hit wood on the last couple of days of the mission.
All open circuit?
Yes, we're diving the V plan. So we're diving diving air on the bottom is 160. We have a 50-50 mix, as you can see, slung. And we switch over to that at 70 feet. And then we have a stop at 20 feet on medical grade O2.
Need some IBS stickers in those tanks.
Pardon? Is what?
Need some IBS stickers on those
Oh.
tanks.
Yeah. But you can see the M4, that would have been the top deck. And it's quite extensive. We chose several M4 to bring up. We did find plates, which I'll show you, dinnerware. We found some nails as well.
Any photography?
Yes, everything's been photographed.
Photography?
Photogrammetry, yes. Now this is, one of our divers doing some tagging as well. Everything is monitored topside. We have video cameras, live camera action on the bottom for safety. We have safety divers ready to go in the water should there be an issue.
So what kind of lost time do you go?
It depends. We usually spend 17 to 20 minutes on the water. And depending on decompression, it's usually a 40 to 53 minute dive. Now we're airlifting, as you can see. You can hear the pump going. And eventually,
So how far away is that discharge?
pardon?
How far away is everything that you're sucking up is that discharge?
It's down below. It's going down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's emptying in a cage. So it's not going up. It never will make it.
Well, I think
As you can see, we did some construction to prevent the sand from continually coming down over the wreck. Because we're digging holes. Some of the holes are 2.5 meters. And then the sand fills in. So it's quite a project. That's the photo, the mosaic, what I was searching for. Makes a mosaic of the wreck. So we can study it each day. There's some plates, as you can see.
Yeah.
And they were very unique. They were stamped with a cross underneath. And we were able to find where these were made. And it was the Black Sea. the region of Crimea in the Black Sea. So we're able to tell where this shipwreck sailed to, the ports that it visited, by the contents of its cargo. And the shape of the amphores, and the resin that they use to make the amphora. They take all these samples and they're able to tell.
So how deep is all the other things?
We're operating at 160. 161.
If you're digging down to find more stuff, you think it could be way down?
Yeah, could be 10, 12 feet down. We don't know. I would think it is because the topography over 2,000 years has changed, obviously. And there's a lot of erosion that takes place, a lot of storms in the area, and there's currents as well. So everything changes after, that period of time.
Did you find anything other than amphora?
Like skeleton?
Nothing as yet. Now, we lost a good friend of ours a couple of years ago. This is Markos Garras. You probably saw him in the video. He was our dive safety officer, and he was playing basketball one afternoon in Athens and suffered a massive heart attack, unfortunately. 52 years of age, and we were really saddened by this.
Sure.
So we dedicated this mission to Markos Garras because he was like a father to many of the young divers. Because we bring students along. These are marine archaeology students from Athens, and Markos certified all of them, so they were very close. It was really a tough thing. Markos' wife and twin daughters, came on this last mission with us, and they were there when we had the dedication. Then we put up a marble plaque in the memory of Captain Markos Garras from his companions. And this is right over the wreck site. And he found this wreck, by the way, he and his dive buddy. So it was very apropos that we put that up for him. Now this is Fournoi. And as you can see, it's kind of shaped like a lobster. It's got a lot of little inlets and harbors. There's 20 natural harbors. So now you can understand that this was an ancient waypoint. The ancient ships sailing northeast, southeast, west, and east would shelter in some of these natural harbors. But there was an issue, and we have discovered the issue, and I'll tell you later what happened to some of these ships. So, as you know, this is Fournoi in the up right-hand corner, as you can see. That's in between Samos and Ikaria. The island of Ikaria is what they call a blue zone. People on the island live well into their 100s. And there's reasons for that. Obviously, the wine doesn't have any sulfates in it. The food is natural. The food is local. They import very little. And the stress level is about 0. So that keeps everybody alive and well. So we have 58 ancient shipwrecks now, after these few years. Amazing. There's no other place in the world that has this concentration of ancient shipwrecks. And you can see the oldest is 700 BC, and the youngest, right, give me a break, 20th century, right? 15th to 20th century. Most of them are Roman. The Romans, of course, their empire stretched far and near, all over the North Africa, all over the European area, was under Roman influence for over 672 years, something like that. So these are all room. Romans loved red wine, so they loved that wine coming from Greece. This is a shipwreck at 600 meters. This was shot by a ROV, as you can see, and by Soton technology. So now we know what this ship may have looked like. This is an ancient Greek ship, and all we had were drawings until a few years ago when they were able to travel up to the Black Sea. The reason that it's preserved is because the Black Sea is void of oxygen. There just isn't any oxygen in that water, so there are no animals that are going to eat the wood and deteriorate it. So it's pristine. Of course, it's 600 meters. That's deep. That's about, what is that, 1,800 feet? Yeah, 1,800 feet.
Decompression stop.
Ancient map. We were able to find this map dated 1510. And look at the concentration of shipping, of ships going through what we call the Fournoi Channel. What we're finding is that most of the wrecks that we're finding are along this area here. So I think they were going in for the evening, maybe. We shall see. Here's a map of the trade routes of the Greeks and the Phoenicians. And as you can see, the Greeks had colonized most of that area. They were well before the Roman Empire, the Phoenicians as well. In fact, the Greeks were in Sicily and southern Italy, which a lot of people don't realize. Many of the Italians have Greek blood in their veins from those days. But you can see the northeast routes that they follow. Well, what do you see right here? They're going right by Fournoi, right by Samos, in between Samos and Icaria. Now this is their Mount Washington, in my opinion. It's Mount Carcass, and it's 4,715 feet high. Many a day we will be ready to go out, and all of a sudden this wind will come out of the northeast at 50 to 60 miles an hour. In fact, it held up our first 3 days of our mission. We couldn't get out there. The wind was so incredible, and it was blowing horizontal. So we didn't dare to put our dive vessel there. Could have been blown off, and we didn't put any divers in the water for 3 days because of these winds. Well, can you imagine being in an ancient sailing vessel coming up through here with that wind suddenly coming out of nowhere? It wouldn't stand a chance.
What causes the wind?
It's a combination of the mountain and the water coming down from the North Sea, the colder water. And they think it's picking up energy. And I have on the next slide a map of what you see. That's blowing. So you can see if they were coming up here, they'd get in trouble and they'd try to get into a harbor. And they wouldn't make it. There's something else going on in Fournoi as well. There's currents that are unbelievable, and they seem to circulate around the island. So one day you'll have a current going east-west, another day north-south, and curling around the island. That's very unusual. So can you imagine a sailing vessel with a rudder, a wind that dies, or a wind forcing you this way and a current this way? What happens to your rudder? Useless. That's right. So that's why you have these ships going up with tremendous loss of cargo and life. This was our first mission in 2015. This gentleman right here is Tony Koutsioulas. He was the ancient, well, I didn't ancient, he's actually my age, but older gentleman. And he was suffering from the bends over the years. In fact, he had a boat, and he lost 6 divers over the course of his life to the bends. And if you remember, the Greek divers had no tables to work from, no computers to work from. They'd go down and work, and when they'd get tired, they'd come up. Tony told us that he knew the diver was okay when he came up if he asked for a cigarette. If he didn't, he knew that they were hurting. And sure enough, they had all kinds of things they would do, including packing people in ice and, just terrible stuff. But he eventually lost his boat. On the island of Calamos, he told us that the people didn't like him. And they didn't like him because men lost their lives on his boat working. It was almost like a curse. And one day he lost his boat with all his sponges. A rainstorm came out of nowhere, and all the sponges were on the deck and hanging from the lanyards. Well, the sponges soaked up the rain, and it flipped over the boat and went down. So, karma, I guess, I don't know. But he was limping around. I mean, he was dragging that right leg like this. Come to find out, he had long bone narcosis of his hip. And he couldn't afford to get an operation. So we were able to raise, through donations and an article deal, $2,500, and he went and got his new hip. Now he's standing upright. And that's what a new hip costs in Greece, by the way, $2,500.
Cheap, yeah. A lot of people was worried at that point.
So here's our 2018 team, and you can see how it grew. It has grown to conservators, commercial divers, technical divers. We have boat operators, captains, and we have legal there, drivers. It's quite an operation now. So in 2016, I penned an article in Alert Diver, if you have that, I think it was, winter of 2016. I talk about my first experience on the island there and some of the people that I worked with, because it is all about the people. It's certainly not about me. It's about our team and what we've have accomplished. These are great people. I love working with them. I'll be there again in September for our next mission, and we hope to really start to excavate this wreck number 15. This is a video that I shot in 2015 with a GoPro. I want to play this with you. This was finding wreck number 53. Now this is a high value wreck as well. And what we have found preliminary is wood under this debris field. We couldn't get to that this last year because of the winds. So we decided to work on the other side of the cliff. Let me see if I can play this. So that wreck, 1550 BC, before Christ, it was carrying, we believe, figs on board. Figs were really in demand during that period of time.
You can tell it was figs.
Because it came from an area called Militas, and they were exporting figs back in those days. Plus they did some DNA sampling, and they were able to find traces of the fig. So we might be excavating this coming year, we'll see. We found, my buddy and I saw this wreck, we were both on a tandem underwater scooter, and just came upon it by accident. But that's the way it's been in Fournoi. Everything was accident. You know, we didn't know where the stuff was. We just started surveying. By the way, only 50% of the island has been surveyed. So we don't really know what else we have. But we've got to stop now. We have over 300 artifacts that are being conserved, going to conservation in Athens right now. And it's a long process. It can take up to 2 years to totally desalinize flora because of the salt content of the pottery. If you don't do that, it'll simply break apart.
How are you differentiating cargo from ship stores?
From what?
Ship stores, things that keep on board to feed the crew.
Well, that's a good question. We have found pots. I found a pot with a spout on it and a handle. And I'll show you a picture. I think I can bring it up. It was part of the crew's kitchenware. We've also found a funnel fire setup where they'd build a fire and then put a funnel over it and a pot on top of it to contain the flame and the heat. And we found one of those as well. That would have been a kitchen product. We also found these big pithos, they call them, but they're storage containers, and they would use burlap to store certain edibles.
John, it's all that fired clay pottery? Is that what it's the composition of it?
Yes. Yeah, it's fired clay. And we can tell by, I think I mentioned this, by the resin in the clay as to where it came from. Pictures. He's amazing. So here's an aerial shot of me. And you can see the water, how crystal clear it is. You can see the wreck at 70 feet looking down. So 110 feet down, you can see the wreck. Pretty amazing. Here's another shot of our support vessels. We also have an institute on the island. It's called the Korsai Institute. That's where all our fill tanks, compressors are. We have a classroom set up. And that's where we do all our training and all our prepping of the mission. This is our Canadian friend from Halifax. And you can see he dies redundant. So he has his medical grade O2, his 50-50 mix, and his air, all slung together. Which is pretty cool. Here's a shot of us decompressing, and this is Stefanos, the free diver, took this picture. You can see how beautiful it is. You can see the bottom. This is that video surveillance system. We have 2 cameras on the divers and on the wreck. We can monitor that wreck 24/7 now. So we know that there are no looters there. Here's the 2 commercial divers working on the pump. We had some issues with our airlift at the beginning, and finally we got that squared away. It's frustrating. You can see the airlift coming down and the two divers working it. Oop. Now here's that, one of the big amphoras. This is after we've been working for a number of days. You can see these amphoras are now being exposed, and we're taking a look to see which ones would have some value to bring to the surface. Here I am making my ascent. That's what collects all the debris at about 165 feet, that cage. So we collect all the pieces as well, because we don't want anything to bypass our eyesight. So we have shards in there, and those shards are from the broken amphora over the years. That's the programmetry that we were talking about. That's part of the archaeological protocol. Everything has to be done every day. And now you can see we've uncovered a tremendous amount of cargo on the top deck. And here's where we've been working. You see this? Up in the corner. Now we have some issues. See that overhang started to deteriorate rather quickly as we were taking sand from the top right corner of that wreck. So we had to build some dams. And you'll see some dams in a minute here. See the dam up above? And that was fabricated to prevent sand from coming down over what we've been removing. We did over 310 dives on this wreck. Over 230 hours of bottom time. There's a good shot of the dam and some of the excavation that we've been doing. And you can see right here, here's an amphora that's been uncovered. As we remove debris, we find more and more. There's almost nothing up above, though. So, as I said, the archaeologists feel that this wreck sank very quickly. It must have been damaged very heavily and sank to the bottom, with spilling out very little. See how large that is.
Was there ever any survivors from the ships? When they did?
No, I don't know.
John, this was thousands of years ago, so we have no idea.
Has there been any records or anything?
It would be pretty, the way that island is set up, if they wrecked out there, it would be instant death.
Yeah.
There's no place to go. You saw the picture of the island. And 2,000 years ago, there probably wasn't much in the way of natives there either. Well, they did find a sarcophagus there, but you know, once they were digging a foundation for a home, they found a sarcophagus, and they put that in the square. But it's hard to say. There were pirates on the island, as you heard. But none of these wrecks can be attributed to pirates. Pirates wouldn't be wrecking ships, they'd be taking them. So what we're doing now is we're about to raise that artifact. That was a very large amphora, and we didn't clean it out. We wanted to bring it to the surface first. So here it is on the way up. Once we got it to the surface, we were able to raise it with our crane. You see it coming up right now. And there's our artifact. And there's a conservator cleaning the plates that we found. Here's your plate. Now here's the cleaning station, and that's our head conservator cleaning out the amphora. And what we find are these ancient crustaceans in here. So the nutrients attracted the crustaceans. They went up inside, fed on the nutrients, and then died in there. So they're finding crustaceans they haven't seen for 1,000 years. It's pretty amazing. Here's some of those ancient fossilized shells that they find. And I was able to take a few back home. That's the only thing I was allowed to take, shells. Here's a classroom setting, and we also had with us a underwater iPad that is hooked up, is air integrated, so it picks up your PSI reading. It also has a heart rate monitor as well, and they were testing now while we were there. Here's some of the crew, and here's the entire crew. You see us, we're flying the Greek flag, and then we were flying the Explorers flag as well. So this is the institute that we have. It's called the Corsi Institute. There's a mission statement. You can join the institute for $35. Here's the logo. And what we will be doing is next year forming field training sessions. We have 5 students, marine archaeology students, already signed up. They're going to work with us on the wreck and then go in for classroom at the institute. So this is real world training. There's nothing like this in the world. So we have a real opportunity to develop a really advanced institute. So they would get a history of the island, a history of wrecks, a history of maritime transit routes. They'd also be able to work on the conservation of some of these artifacts. They would dive on some of these wrecks with us. They would do their photogrammetry. Then we will have an expert teaching photogrammetry as well. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
John, as far as the thermal protection and the water temperature, what was that?
It's 76 degrees.
So it's a little, okay.
I think it was 66 on the bottom. I'm wearing a 7 mil.
Okay.
We have filed for the ability to do a marine sanctuary on the island. We will have accommodations. I would assume everyone likes Greek food, so there's no McDonald's or Subway. I'm going to work with Dave to set up a trip or two to Greece for him. I have some friends there that have dive stores, liveaboards, dive boats. There are 2 marine sanctuaries also already set up in Greece where you can dive on ancient shipwrecks. One in particular is beautiful. So I'll give you some information on that as well.
Okay.
I'm going to have to send you emails.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
So our plan is to bring trips over, to bring groups of divers who just want, they love pretty fishes. You know, God bless them. You know, I do too. But to dive an ancient shipwreck is strictly out of this world.
And then just like our trips to the Red Sea,
Yeah.
and Indonesia, it'll be a diving and a culture trip. So
Exactly.
there'll be a diving component of it here, and then we'll be on land, checking off all the boxes of the bucket list of, you're in Greece, here's the things you need to see, and experience.
It's the new eco dive. Now that things have opened up again, I mean, we had plans in 2019, obviously they had to go on the back burner. We've lost 2.5 years of our plans, unfortunately, as we all have. I mean, we're all in the house for 2 years. Well, don't get me started.
Looking at your maps, Fournoi looks very close to me to Turkey.
It is, yeah. I can see Turkey. I can see Russia.
Okay, so my question is why does Greece own it, or why is it a Greece property? I'm just curious. Why
The treaty, Lucerne Treaty of 1923.
Okay.
Yeah.
1923.
Yeah, after World War I. The Turks lost those islands. That was part of the agreement.
Okay.
Now, they would like to have them back.
I'm sure they would.
It's not going to happen.
Okay.
They've been rattling sabers, and they have a very aggressive president there.
Yes.
He's, I don't want to get into politics.
No, but that's why I was curious why they would allow something like this to get away, and they may take it back. In the
Treaty of Lucerne.
Yeah, they may take it
You
back.
can look it up. And
There
was a Unicaria, which is a sister island. There's still a communist party there. Okay, and it was left over from the Cold War. It was left over. So these guys went out and went to the far island of Fournoi and put up a Greek flag. And that island has been back and forth verbally with the president of Turkey. So he sent the Navy out while we were there and to remove that flag. And then the Navy went back and said we removed the flag. Well, they never did. They never removed the flag. So the mayor of Fournoi tweeted out, "My flag is still here." I don't know what happened to those Navy guys. But, that's what it's like over there. But while we were there, we had 2 Turkish jets buzz us. And we had a research ship with us in 2017. And it's a 110-foot research vessel. And they came to help us identify some deeper wrecks. They had that side imaging capability. Unfortunately for them, the side imaging was acting up. And we were able to find one very deep wreck, but we haven't dove it yet. It's not open circuit available. It's more of a 300-footer. But anyway, the Turkish Navy came out to see what we were doing, because they are very sensitive about anyone sailing around near their coastline. So we were in Greek waters, but it's all contested.
At least by Greek
law.
You can see the dashed line, right? Like our dives up in the St. Lawrence, right?
I had a question. You'd mentioned that there was a port you were going to tell us at the end of the presentation that the ship was from, I guess?
We don't know which port it came from, but we know that it stopped in several ports.
Okay.
And I just got the final, it's in the car. I could bring it in for you if you'd like. But I think it's called Snopsis, something like this, Snoppy or Snopsis. And it's a town in the Black Sea area by Crimea. And that's where they made these plates. These plates were well known throughout the Mediterranean and Aegean as tableware. So they knew that it stopped there. And there's a couple of other areas. Now the ship is not Roman. We thought it was. It's now, they've decided that it's Byzantine. So 4th and 5th century, as opposed to 2nd and 3rd.
That's quite a distance, because obviously they had to come all the way through the Turkish Straits to get the Greece from, if they started in Crimea.
Well, our other high value wreck only came 60 miles. Militas is in the southern part of Turkey, and it went up the coast to the north, and it ran into trouble in Fournoi. So that only traveled about 60 nautical miles.
Wow.
So the winds got it, and the currents. We will have a white paper published very soon about the currents. They're measuring currents now.
Right.
And Dr. Peter Campbell is a professor at Canberra University in England, and they're a forensic college. They do forensics, and he's also been trained in current and how currents change. You know, I don't know, hydrodynamics, I guess.
Right, sure.
But,
so they can trace back to these ancient currents of ancient time.
What they discovered in Fournoi is converging currents, and he's doing a study on that now. I don't know whether they can actually go back very far on the study of current, and because weather has only been documented for what, 100 years?
Since Mercury.
Yeah.
Since Mercury.
Yeah.
The fact that the sea level at 20th century, what did they think it was 2,000 years ago at that spot?
It was 20 feet higher.
Higher, gotcha,
Yeah.
20 feet higher.
Right.
Okay.
There are some towns that they're finding that have been leveled. And, you know, as the sea
recedes,
they're finding some additional foundations.
Yeah, because they found that one vineyard, that winery off the coast of Greece because the water level is dropping.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And that's quite interesting.
It is. You know, I just went to a symposium in New York City, and there was a climatologist who said the West Coast level has dropped 20 feet.
West Coast.
Along California and that area.
That's good.
Yeah.
Which
Is that, you've heard that too?
So do we not need to worry about all those little Micronesian islands disappearing now?
I don't know.
On to the next issue.
This is very controversial. Any other questions? You know, all I want to say is in the next year or two, we will have dive trips to Fournoi. That is in the plans.
Awesome.
Now, it takes 2 days to get there. It's like flying to Micronesia, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Because you have to stay over in Athens to get out to Icaria, unless you can time it just right to get an afternoon flight. So you're leaving the day before.
That's only local regional airlines that
Yes.
fly out there, right? So
Yeah, twin engine.
National carrier, international carriers, Athens, and then overnight, and then a regional
Right.
carrier.
And there's plenty to do in Athens, that's not a problem.
Okay.
And then you take a ferry from Icaria to Fournoi,
Yeah.
and then all the boats are there, and all the airfields and the institute, all the guides. We'll have everything. We'll have moorings set up so we can safely dive some of these wrecks that are here. So, all right.
Very good.
Very good.
Thank you so much.